notorious outlaw, Mountain Tom Clark, from Lauderdale County, Alabama. Florence, this is the Florence, Alabama. And you can find information out more about him through Alabama Heritage. You can also look up alabama.com, al.com, type in Mountain Tom Clark, and you can find all kinds of information. I went to Lawrence County, Alabama. Lauderdale County, Alabama, and found information on their page. And I found some information. Y'all check it out. It has official records of the War of the Rebellion. It has articles from the Father of Blues autobiography about things that had happened, the shooting affair of what took place. You know, these are record accounts. And it says, great excitement in Florence. It talks about summary punishment visited upon the guilty, crime and punishment. 3 men were hung on one tree. Of course, this notorious Tom Clark being one of them. Robbers captured and hung. They were hung by outraged citizens. And they give the facts that they had gathered. On the bottom of it, they talk about the hanging. And then more information about the Sheriff Hudson and things like that took place. So I recommend that you go to that page. It's www.lauderdale.web.com, and then type in Mountain Tom Clark. Now, in the years after the Civil War, the court systems of northwest Alabama and south middle Tennessee struggled to maintain the law and order as the murderous guerrillas and bushwhackers terrorized the countryside. The most notorious gang in the area was the Clifton Shebang, known to Lauderdale County residents as the Boogers. Thomas Mountain Tom Clark, who was a deserter from both the Union and Confederate armies, was one of the leaders of this gang. Now, he was born in 1821 and died in 1872. The first record of Tom Clark and the Clifton Shebang comes from an 1865 report by Captain Lot Abraham in the 4th Iowa Cavalry, USA. And you can actually find that on this page I told you about when you go look on the website. Now, he reported to his superior about robberies by Union troops stationed near Florence, Alabama. Captain Abrams stated that several citizens told him they believed most of the robbing had been done by men who were with Lieutenant Thrasher. Among them, he listed Tom Clark. Now, the officers caught up to Clark one blustery winter day as he was building a stick chimney on his uncompleted house. Inside, his wife and newly born baby laid ill. They laid ill. Now, Clark escaped from the Confederate officers and went north to Clifton in Wayne County, Tennessee, to enlist the Union Army. Lauderdale and Wayne counties had much such Union sympathizers, but Army life did not hold Clark for long, and he deserted the Union as well and soon met up with the Clifton Shebang. Now, before he was brought to justice by a Florence mob in 1872, Clark boasted about killing many men. Among his victims were 3 people at the Wilson plantation and 3 Confederate soldiers who happened to come across Clark as he was hunting another man. According to Dr. Wade Pruitt, author of the only book about the Boogers, Tom Clark was one of the 20 Boogers who conducted the raid on the Wilson plantation. They conducted a second raid into Florence in September of 72 in the criminal escapade that was to become the Mountain Tom's downfall. Now, the Lauderdale Times Extra of September the 5th, 1872, reported that after several houses were robbed in Florence, 2 men were spotted driving a sorrel mare hitched to a buggy at 2 o'clock in the morning. At sunrise, a posse led the Florence City Marshal William Edward Blair in the pursuit of the outlaws. According to the Times, the posse caught up to the gang near Gravelly Springs. The elegantly dressed outlaws, as they were put, had stopped for dinner and were in the process of unhitching their horses and were caught by surprise and put up no resistance to Marshal Blair and his men. A search of the outlaws discovered nothing but however, when they began to examine the buggy, breast pins were sticking out, and they also, according to the paper, the deputies had found 8 watches, a handful of the breastpins, and other items. They also opened a traveling salesman's satchel, and they found files and saws and other burglary instruments. Now, seeing that they were both caught and outnumbered, the outlaws surrendered their arms and were promptly placed under arrest and taken back to Florence, where they were jailed. Now, Sheriff Calvin Hudson feared the county jail insecure. He deputized 8 men to stand guard with the jailer. Well, about midnight, a great crowd arrived at the jail demanding the keys. Refusing to hand over the keys, the jailer fired into the crowd. Reportedly, fire was returned, and the angry mob soon broke open the doors and the cells and disarmed the jailers. They dragged Clark and his 2 accomplices to a vacant lot across Pine Street behind the old Masonic Lodge and lynched the 3 criminals, hanging them from a large tree in the lot. The next morning, the bodies were found by a group of citizens who identified Clark. Thus, the notorious outlaw Tom Clark met his end. Mayor Neander Rice ordered the bodies buried in one of the old fields near the town. But a legend began perhaps in the 1930s or even as late as the 1960s, and has it that one of the men on the burial detail remembered hearing Clark boast that no one would ever run over Tom Clark, and then got the idea to bury the outlaw outside the cemetery underneath East Tennessee Street so that everyone would run over Tom Clark. The burial legend is not supported by any newspaper reports at that time, and it's not mentioned in subsequent accounts of the lynching. Still, a historic marker that you see here on the screen in Florence tells the story of Mountain Tom's notorious career as an outlaw, his hanging, and his burial under Tennessee Street. The true location of the outlaw's final resting place is a mystery, but his legend remains to tell a tale of turbulent times in post-Civil War Alabama. And it says this notorious outlaw gang leader who boasted that no one would ever run over Tom Clark lies buried near the center of Tennessee Street, where now all who pass by do run over him. In 1872, Clark, who terrorized helpless citizens during the Civil War, confessed to at least 19 murders, including a child, and was hanged with 2 companions. Although graves were already dug in a nearby field, outraged townspeople interred Clark beneath Tennessee Street, thus bringing his boast to naught. And this, my friends, is the story of Mountain Tom Clark.